Hello, welcome back to episode 697, part 3, where we learn to be a better gamer. I want to remind you of the big themes that we've seen out of soO, him being a more ling-speed opening-focused player, to set the pace of the game, to get information, and then to sort of expand behind, or do moves behind. He uses it to give himself breathing room. What we're going to see now is what occurs outside of a build order. I've been calling this a 6 pool, but technically I'm lying. It's an 8 pool, but that's fine. The fact that it's a super early rush with drones being pulled off by life is the important part. If I say 8 pool, then people just think that I'm being cute. But when I say 6 pool, they're like, no, nobody's 6 pools. And you're right. Look, I call it a 6 pool. I called it a 6 pool. Forgive me. I lied to you, and for that I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. It's like if I promise you that there's going to be a surprise, and then you eat your vegetables, and I'm your parent, and I'm like, look, there's no surprise, but it's just good to eat vegetables. And now you're like, oh, Dad. But look. We have this statement. soO likes to open aggressively. But what happens when his opening gets completely thrown off kilter? This is game 4 in their series. Their best of 7. Boom! Hatchery goes down. We see soO moving forward, moving outward. And here comes lings and drones. Insta-cancel by soO, who pulls right on back, gets his overlord. Tries to pick away at this drone. So what's to happen? Now, first of all, I have big, deep respect for soO. The fact that he defends fast pools by just parking his drones at the top of his ramp. We see the dance doth beginneth. Nothing too cute in terms of the mid-battle micro. soO is not pulling back weakened drones. He's just holding up at the front. Once the count gets a little bit smaller, we start to see individual drones get pulled and picked back. So in this insane exchange, soO actually has a slight lead in drones. Just picks everything off and now has 6. There's the cancel. And it's 6 to 4, with Life producing 3 on the backside. And Life does something super, super sweet. He marches Lings up to the main base pretty soon and suicides to kill some drones. Does he? Is that what happens now? Or does he run all the way back? Nope, I'm wrong. I lied. But at this point in time, they basically have the same amount of workers. It's a relatively even game. Yeah. Some drone kill attempts by soO don't go amazingly well, but he still gets a few. Right now it's 13 and 8 killed off. So here we have ourselves a very odd game. But notice this theme from soO. He just gets his gas right away, and he's leaving this overlord parked here to get a sense of when the expansion goes down. And we'll look at the production tab. We see mostly drones, a couple lings to help with the wall off at the front. Here soO is going to see the expansion occur. Come on, game, speed on. We see metabolic boost happen. We see more drones getting made. We see the goal of an expansion coming in. Extremely aggressive opening with a baneling nest. I mean, given how hard it will be for the enemy Life to actually have anything at this point in time, to be able to defend it, I find just very impressive from Sir soO. And let's see exactly how he does it by looking at the production. Just the same general theme. There's going to be lots of linging. There's going to be bane linging to to force big answers out of Life. Life, we see the same theme from him, staying low on gas, generally emphasizing queens to deal damage. In this position, it's still 19 to 23. It's not like there's a huge deficit. And the queens just march in, block the front, but with the banelings here, I mean, a lot of stuff gets picked. And marches right up the front. Now, normally we would call this like big, all-in type moves from soO, but this game's about halfway done right now. Just crazy exchanges. As soO is dealing some nice damage, we can glance up at the production tab. And we see again, only after he has established a huge amount of control do we see more drones getting produced. Same story as we saw in our previous game in part 2. We see the Evo chambers at the front. We see there's successfully been kills for soO. He goes ahead and gets an Evo chamber to just maintain that upgrade lead because he's got some gas hanging around. He's going to get the layer. Doesn't have to rush to get a Roach Warren up and use roaches for defense. Can spend all that extra gas getting his upgrades, making sure that he has Roach speed +1. There's +1. I think I'm going to speed this game up because I think it's pretty clear that soO has a nice little edge. Pretty even in drones, but the speed's coming up sooner. Because those lings have control of the map, it's very easy to get this hatch up should an attack occur. Completely reasonable to use roaches or lings at this point. If the Roach Warren was delayed slightly, he could still use just lings at this point, because he has a really good sense of what's up. Moves forward, sees the one wiggling Evo chamber, sees the second wiggling Evo chamber. By the way, this is so subtle and cool. Life started researching out of this one, but canceled and then went to the 2 edge ones, because this is the one that he actually does want to knock down, and also they're split apart for baneling hits. Nyahaha. This is a pretty straightforward follow-up from soO. He's just going to be flooding with a lot of roaches. So many roaches. Lings control the map. No chance for to take the third. And soO just crushes on in. I thought that was a beautiful game. I thought it was quite beautiful. The last match that I want to close out on is another just sweet play. It's going to be happening on... Where's the map? There it is. Altars in Stronghold. There hasn't been sound for quite some time. I'm so interesting. So, We lost sound somewhere like early on. So we're going to repeat things as fast as we can. Ba-da-da-da. This is a map where generally you think that early aggression is not so good because of the fact that there's very tiny ramps. So we're going to still see the same basic opening from soO on this map, and we're going to see exactly how it is the case that he's able to use it effectively. Life is going to begin early expanding, as is soO. We're going to see fast gas from both players. Now, Life is going to be opting for an early Zergling speed, but this is generally because on this map you just feel safe, and Life's going to use it as another safety measure. But at the top side, we see soO still has 3 in gas. Herpty-derpty-doopty-doopty-woo! And it's a Baneling nest. He's going to be trying to be aggressive, but at what time does he begin to be aggressive? Because the fact that you go for a Baneling nest, it means that you have absolutely no money to get up the 5-minute expansion. So let's take ourselves a look at when does soO get it? Right as his Baneling nest is done. Right as his Baneling nest is done. He starts getting lots of Baneling fun, because that's how fast the Lings can run to join their friends. So at this point in time, this is game 3 in the series, so already Life has gotten a taste of soO's penchant for aggressive plays. There's a hint of Banelings because Life sees them with his own fucking eyes. soO is not necessarily going to expand quickly behind, he's going to layer quickly behind. If we briefly glance at what's going on in Camp Liferton, Life is having to build backup Banelings to get himself defense against a potential all-in. But soO, you'll see, only built a pair of Banelings. In the first 2 games, we saw that Speedlings for soO are used to secure a third. In the game in the most recent game, the 6-pool game, it's used to maintain control and then to eventually get a third. Here, it's used to get faster tech. So soO was actually about to go third, but then he got some Lings coming up. Up. So tell me, guys, what's a Life to do? When Life throws you lemons, you say go back to practicing because your job is StarCraft 2. These defensive Banelings from soO are being turned into aggression. Life gets a Spire. Life needs the third. Excuse me. soO gets a Spire. soO gets a third. soO. Go soO. Now, what Life is doing in this particular position is getting the double upgrade, the roach speed, everything that we've seen him traditionally get. He's got 5 queens up. Why? Why would you have 5 queens? Think about it from Life's vantage point. He sees no third, so we're not going to be up against a big macro-heavy roach player. He sees lots of aggression, so cool, if we both go for roaches, I'm going to win because I have more drones. So the only thing that really makes sense for him to be doing is a Spire or a shitty roach play. Those are the 2. So queens are going to help against Spires because they shoot the air. They're also going to help against roaches because they can transfuse the ground. I wish I could do a good Chewbacca. I can't get enough phlegm in the throat to get the... Banelings versus Zerglings, interesting and fun. Sometimes get connections, sometimes you get none. 8 Mutalisks incoming. Both players getting a third, you heard. Now, generally speaking, the reason that you would want to get Mutalisks up is to do an extension play, where you get a 4th, or you get Infestors, something that you wouldn't normally be able to do, because this player is going to be up to his eyeballs in defense. I mean, we still have a lot of the Speedlings from the early game, but now we has 8 Mutalisks. So there's the extension, straight to soO's going to have the opportunity to mass up drones and get his double gas up. Let us see what happens. Spore Crawler falls down. Spore Crawler falls down. Let's look up in the production tab. Or excuse me, in the unit counting tab, we see 8 queens. 8 queens does mean business. Mutals have to fly by a Spore Crawler, which means their numbers get cut in half. Here comes a very sexy, sexy play. The Mutalist numbers are been reduced. Reduced! For life, he's already got himself the speed upgrade. He's getting himself up. Additional attack upgrades. He's getting himself up. Some pathogen glands. He knows that the enemy is likely to do an extension, like a 4th base, or a infestation pit. You see in the unit count, no infestors across the board. Infestors coming out for life. Pathogen glands coming out for soon. He's also getting a Hydralisk. Done. These Speedlings and these Mutalisks will generally keep a Zerg pinned in his base, but not when that Zerg player is getting a Nidus network. My favorite place for a Nidus network is right here. I like it right there. This is my favorite spot. Surprisingly hard to see. 4th base attempt. Oh, look at 4th base for soO. He's like, yeah, I'm so clever. And life is going to go for a very brilliant play. Timing attack that aligns with his +2 upgrade. He's going to queue up a Nidus Worm next to his Nidus Worm to make sure that it can't possibly die. Those queens, those slow-ass, monstrously annoying queens are going to join in the battle. And in this fight, we see 43 roaches, 3 infestors, and 9 queens against a general smorgasbord. Opening up the H-tab, we get to see so many transfuses are down. All the energy's gone, wop. The entire series between these two players was just amazing, just cool shit all the time. Those are the first 4 games. And would love it if you checked out the last 3 games over at GOM. EXP. I don't know what the website is. It's on YouTube. Someplace. So, Utoru Kyoya says, Day Night, started the daily talk about being reactive and proactive. I noticed something peculiar in Yonsu, Heavy Rain, and Polar Night. soO played his game reactively. However, soO played proactively on Altarism Stronghold. I just don't have any clue at all what reactive means. He was really active in all the games, just across the board. I don't think the word reactive really means anything in StarCraft 2. If you could rephrase the question, Utoru Kyoyo, by the way, is the #1 question asker in the daily. So I'd love to hear that question rephrased. For sure. Day 9. Why do you call? Good questions. Let's see. Smallpox says, Day 9, if the end goal is to get roaches in threat, but not use banelings, why not just get roaches as fast as possible, like in a 7 roach rush? Because there is what I will call the correct inefficient answer. If you are trying to get up a sufficient number of roaches early, it's pretty expensive for the larva. I mean, because you could spend 1 larva on a drone, 1 larva on a ling, or you could spend 1 larva on the 75-25. It's twice the number of resources to build roach. So it's extremely difficult to make efficient use of your larva. So you'll basically have larvae sitting around that you can't even spend at all. But if you if you see a 7 Roach Rush coming, you can actually just build only Zerglings and destroy it. Again, you will do it inefficiently. If you look about, like in the units lost tab, you'll probably have more units lost than the enemy. But because you are actually able to use all your larvae, you will come out ahead. Your opponent will eventually have to stop, which means that you, the defender, will have to stop, and now you have 2 hatches worth of larvae, and he has 1 hatch worth of larvae. Where you can get the replays, you cannot. Like, literally, they are a kind gift to me. Given the fact that all the other organizations are able to cast WCS, and I'm not part of any of those, I get to do the analysis, the replays. Yes. Let's take 2 more questions. Let's see. So Torikyoya, oh great, reward it. He says, in Yonsu Heavy Rain and Polar Night, soO played his game by adjusting to life's initiative. I think that's false on Heavy Rain. I think that soO is the one who initially stepped forward with aggression. However, soO started his own aggression, Ultrazim Stronghold. Let's see. Does the size of the does the size of the map influence the style you should play in Zerg vs. Zerg? I think generally the there's in Brood War in Korea there was the notion of the ball, who had the ball, like who has the initiative, like in soccer or excuse me, football. If one team has the ball, then the team without possession has to like pull back and reform around their own goal and on their side. And then if suddenly possession is exchanged, then you see that what was once the offending team just suddenly pull back. And the same flow exists in StarCraft, where it's not about playing, am I playing a reactive style or a proactive style? No, it's about who has the ball at what point. So again, Zergling speed, quick, before your opponent, means that you get the ball earlier. You get the initiative, which means your opponent has to stay back until they have some tool that they can push out. Heavy Rain, I think, is the strongest example of that, where soO first had the ball, and then they were sort of wrestling, and then Life had the ball with all his roaches hitting everywhere else, and then as Life transitioned to Infestors, Life pulled back defensively, and then soO had the ball. So the question still is, does the size of the map influence the style you should play? I mean, the obvious answer is yes, but that's like not a useful answer for me. The size of the map always is a big influence. I think the biggest influence is twofold. The first biggest influence is how open are various expansions. So for instance, on this map has a very open third base. There's no clear choke for it. So Zerglings used to lock a player out of a third is going to be very strong. There's an example of one. Also, how differently placed are the bases when you start to get up into 4 as a base count. For instance, on here we can see that, well, this third base and this fourth base are actually pretty closely covered. Like, actually, if I just pull out here, I mean, if you park units here, you pretty much cover both this fourth and this third, and as long as you have a spotter down in this general area, yeah, great. So, I think that playing super aggressively is going to be much weaker on this map. To try to do that sort of control. That's where really you'll find the opportunities. Heavy Rain's a great example of where you can just sort of hit on the sides. And I mean, arguably, someone could say, well, no, this is a great map to do roach aggression on because you can sneak roaches up into the main base while trying to harass here, and you can send some roaches to this far back side to harass, since this is not a terrifically big distance in. That's how I sort of look at it. I try to say what are the opportunities that I'm looking for, and at what points in the game can I actually make use of those opportunities. That's probably how I would describe the map. If you see a really open expansion, when can I make use of assaulting that? God, I'm trying to I hope that was useful. That wasn't the greatest answer. We're going to end on a mediocre answer. Thank you so much, Utori. Forgive me. Forgive me. I did my best. Tomorrow I'm going to play Psychonauts. And I hope I keep losing weight. Whoa. Goodbye.